Thank you very much. And for me, it's good morning because I'm based out of Orlando this week. It's actually very cold here. It's under 25 degrees, so it's like 23 degrees. So yeah, that's what I'm struggling with this week. My name is Ståle Hansen, and I'm the CEO of CloudWay. I'm also a Microsoft MVP and RD. And I'm going to share some really cool stuff with you today. And I'm joined here by Ville as well. Ville, would you like to introduce yourself?
So my name is Ville. I'm also working at CloudWay, but as a senior cloud architect. And I'm a data platform MVP, so I kind of just love everything that has to do with Power BI. That's really my stage. So I'll join in later in this session to talk about how you can customize your Power BI reporting.
Fantastic. And also, Ville will follow the chat. So if you have any comments, he will comment right back at you and or raise any questions. And we'll leave most of the questions till the end of the sessions. Because, you know, I talk a lot, then Ville talk more than me. So yeah, we need to get on with this. We need to talk about digital well-being. And for those who knows me, I talk about that a lot. And digital well-being is about managing all those signals that you have in Microsoft 365. And I think we really need to talk about it these days, where we need to be more conscious about where we capture information, where we store that information, how we process it, and make sure that we are using tasks and so on in order to prioritize the right way in our life. We're talking about life skills here. And I made this digital well-being concept, this productivity methodology. It's heavily inspired by the getting things done methodology. I picked like from all the place. Deep Work by Cal Newport. If you haven't read that book, you should and read it, but don't do what he says, because he says like, yeah, we should have a phone call at 3:30. It's like, I don't believe in that. We're moved beyond that now. So I created this 4-module setup where it is about, okay, which app should we use first? And then also, where do they fit within the organization? Where do they fit in your process? And there are 4 modules that I've identified. It's capture. And you see here, it's the planner now, because Microsoft To Do is moving towards planner. It's becoming planner, as announced at Microsoft Ignite in November. It still hasn't happened yet, but it's getting there. So Microsoft's focus this half year, I would say, would be to merge the current capabilities within To Do and Planner into Planner, and then make sure that that's where your task system is. Because through Microsoft Loop, you can actually create your own personal planner these days. That's fantastic, which means that now you can actually run your personal projects as well as your team projects the same way. Use labeling, use buckets, use diagrams, see how you're doing, getting some more reporting on this stuff, which is really good. Process and execute. And I'm going to talk about process and execute. I think that's a very big part of the team's culture we need to build, where it's all about deep work. It's about focusing. I talked about this at Teams Nation the last time we did this. And we need to relearn deep work. There is a huge chance that all of us in this call and our colleagues and so on can actually spend the whole day doing absolutely nothing. You're just waiting for someone to like ask us something, and then we answer, but we are not reaching any deep work. We're just in the shallow ground. We are checking emails, checking Teams, checking social media, checking the news, and so on. And then we are in that like everlasting circle, and then we are hoping someone will invite us to a meeting so we don't have to work, right? Isn't that what yeah. And that's why we need to talk about meetings. So Teams culture, what I'm going to focus on today is meeting culture and how Copilot can help us with that. And then I'm also going to talk about notifications, getting the right notification at the right time, as well as making sure we are reserving time for not being at work. And that's actually, turns out, very hard. So those are the what I'm going to focus on today. You can also reach me at YouTube, where you can watch a deep dive on all of these different modules. It's recorded a couple of years ago. It's Ståle Hansen, or search for my name on YouTube, and then you find the videos. And yeah, it's got over 400,000 views, I think, in total. And I think I hit a nerve on the internet with this. So take a look. I'm also very proud that at the ESPC in November, I got the Wellness Champion Award for what I do with digital well-being, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's fantastic. All right, let's look into this first part here. Let's talk about deep work. So this time I want to mention the clock on Windows 11. Turns out it's fantastic. We should use it more. It turns out that if you open the clock on Windows 11, and everyone should have it by now, this update is you have focus sessions, and the focus sessions integrate with your tasks, which is great. And these are the tasks maybe you want to focus on. See, I have some stuff in here. I have some Instagram I have captured. I have some OKRs I want to make, and some projects that I can close. And I'm on vacation right now, so tuning in to here in order to share this. But I'm on vacation right now, and I'm not planning to execute on these things right now. But I do capture them so that I know what to do when I get back at the office or get back at work. It also integrates with your Spotify. So, which means that when you hit focus here, and this is taken right out of the productivity like notebook, the productivity book. Choose whichever book you want. But this is like the Pomodoro technique, right? Focus for 20 minutes and then take a break. And then the clock measures that and starts a 20-minute focus session. And it says, hey, yeah, this is how you're doing. This is where, and this is not synced though, so it's on the local PC that you're working on, but you can see how many you did, what kind of streak you did, and so on and so forth. So what it does, it actually removes, and that's why it's important. That's why I'm showing you the clock one. It removes badges from the apps on your taskbar. And this is so important. And there's one more thing. Have you ever seen that when you are not using Teams and someone talks to you in Teams, but you're somewhere else, and then it starts flashing on the taskbar? What is that? Really? Are you kidding me right now? So it also turns off that. But you should have that turned off always, but it turns off that too, which means that you reduce distractions. And this is what I call deep work, that we avoid using this. And then if you have a focus session in Viva Insights at the same time, then you will reach the magical do not disturb focusing session. So, and status, I meant, which means it only happens if you plan and schedule focusing time in Viva Insights. So look that up. But I also have a hack here, because you saw I had said 20 here. And this 20 is actually using Power Automate in order to take, okay, if it's a number in here, I'm going to trigger a flow. And that flow will actually manipulate my calendar and copy over a focus session in my calendar for the next 20 minutes. And I haven't shared the new version yet because the old version broke. But I am planning to do that in March. So stay tuned on my YouTube channel. The thing is, though, that Viva Insights can measure this for you. So this is kind of the team's culture you want to build. And that's something you want to get started with today. That when we're using the Do Not Disturb focusing, you are looking at, okay, how much time do you have reserved for focusing? And you can follow this along yourself and gamify this. So these are the days that I managed to do focusing these days. And my goal is to do one session, 20 minutes. That's it. That's all I want. And it sounds easy, but it's actually very hard. So start with like 5 minutes, start with 10 minutes, and then work your way up there if you haven't done this before. So The thing is that Viva Insights can measure this. What we're looking for is uninterrupted focus hours. So we can actually measure this culture within the organization. And then Ville will show you how to do this in Power BI so that we can start integrating this, diving into different departments and looking into this and maybe integrating it with Viva goals if you want to do that. And what we want to tackle is like 0 to 10 hours. We want to actually reduce this in terms of how people are working and then increase this. So we want people to not be about 0 to 1 to 5 hours. I'd rather see an interval here of like 1 to 2 hours. Those are the ones we want to target, and then move them over to between 5 and 10 and 20 hours. So we want people to move up this scale, and we can measure this directly in Viva Insights. So that's a process and execute. And then we have teams culture. So what's the teams culture we want to look for there? And what we want to do is use Copilot together with Teams, together with meetings. Because I do believe that one of the biggest advantages, which you probably learned throughout today as well, is that out of the box Copilot and having a conversation with your meetings, fantastic. So clicking the Copilot button in the meeting, you will be able to do a recap, you can list action items and so on and so forth. But why am I talking about this? This is not just for fun. It is also a way to optimize the way you meet, what you do before, during, and after the meeting. So the way we want to use that is by using these meeting notes in Loop, copying them into Loop, which you will create for the meeting, or maybe you have one already in Teams. You can share this component and then copy in the Copilot notes in here, which will help you do this, and it can even summarize the page. So you can use Copilot for that. You can share out components for different meeting notes if you want to do that, and then you can share this in the Teams channel. So if you have a recurring meeting, then maybe you take notes the same place every time. Or if it's a one-off meeting, you can share the Loop component on email, you can share it on chat, you can share it in channels. The point is, and this is the important part, you spend less time creating the meeting minutes and more time getting things done. Because sometimes why we're having meetings for the meeting after the meeting that we have, so you can prepare for the meeting that we're going to have, because we don't remember what we talked about in the meeting that we had, is because we didn't send out meeting notes. We didn't send out actions after this. But what if you then can move that conversation to an asynchronous Teams conversation? That is what we want to look for. And the effect that we want to see is less hours spent in meetings, because it turns out meetings are great, but not just for meeting. They are great for making decisions. They're great for moving something forward. It's very good for clarifications, but not just to meet, not just to recap on where are we, where are you going, and did you do what we talked about, and what did we actually talk about? We should move to Teams and channels, and using Copilot to take the minutes, so you go have back-to-back meetings. You don't have to forget about it. You have everything in place, and maybe you can end the meeting by sharing the meeting notes, right? Which means that when you have back-to-back meetings, you already have done that note-taking part, which means that we can do asynchronous communication instead, and we can measure this in Viva Insights. So what we want to see then is the meeting hours move down, and you can also see how meetings are spread throughout the week. And it seems on Monday, people are focusing a lot on Mondays, and then on Fridays, we see an uptake on meetings actually for different reasons. And this is from CloudWay. We have introduced no meeting Fridays, so you should look into this. You can also, look at that. Should we do a no meeting day, right? Because okay, let's focus on this day. We talk about stuff asynchronously and reach more focus sessions. See what I did there? Like focus, yeah. So I think that this is where Copilot really fits within this model as well, between process and execute and team's culture. And the last one I want to talk about is notifications. So we need to talk to each other the right way. And first off, you need to tune your Teams client. And Microsoft has just changed like all the way you set up notifications. So the main part, turn off sound, right? So you're not distracting yourself. Turn off miss the activity email, so you don't get a notification about a notification that you already seen. Turn off chat notification. Yes, I'm saying turn off chat notification. Turns out that chat has its own feed. So if you don't turn this off, you will actually have a chat in your feed and a number in your chat, and you're going to check it twice or thrice, depending on how many times you check it. So turn off chat. Only show an activity feed, because the default is a pop-up, it's a pling, it's in the feed, it's in the chat, it's all over the place. So tune your notifications. That is what I'm talking about here. Making sure that you are getting the right notification at the right time. And this again is for so we don't distract ourselves. And then there is one more thing. And I don't think I have a slide on this, but we need to relearn how we talk to each other in teams, right? We need to make sure we are not tagging the team all the time. We're not tagging the channel all the time. Maybe we should create some tags in channels and teams. That's where we should live. And also just go and mention the person you're talking to in the channel, so that everyone don't get a notification for all the messages that are in the conversation. And then bring in the people as you see fit. Bring in the tag where you maybe have everyone that knows something about Intune. You want to, hey, Intune, how are you doing? I have this question, and so on and so forth. Make sure we're doing this, and at the same time tuning notifications. And then this is if you're not doing this already, it is on your phone. You click on your avatar, you go to notifications, and I think this is where Teams really shines. That if you're active on the desktop, you are blocking notifications on your phone. This is beautiful, actually, because sometimes I'm on my phone and then I'm on my desktop and I'm on my phone. It's like notifications everywhere. So if that happens, take a step back and look at when active on desktop. So during quiet time, that's what we're talking about. So it turns out that we need rest. And if we are having work conversations after work, then we're not resting. And the moment you see a notification after work, your mind instantly goes off and thinking, okay, what's going on here? And then you see the message, you're starting authoring a new one, and you have to reply within 30 minutes. Instead of you seeing it the next day because it wasn't that important. So having quiet hours and quiet days, so important. And the thing is that this is something we can measure in Viva Insights. And you can see it for yourself. This is how damaged I am, but it's a conscious choice. I've actually some Saturdays and Sundays actually managed to do it, which is good. But you can also see it on an organizational level. How are after our collaboration? And we can start looking into what's the culture we have in our environment. Because we can't just say, hey, just stop working after hours. No, we need to teach people quiet time. We need to give people quiet time. And that's a huge differentiation. Don't take quiet time. Be given quiet time by your manager, because that is when you're entitled to have quiet time. Because those who take quiet time, they often go in and check anyway. But those who are given it, they actually say that, hey, yeah, no, if nothing is vibrating over here because they know how to reach me, then I'm not going to check. And that's something we need to work on. And again, it's a life skill. So we can even see that. And what we want to target typically in organizations like this, we want to target those between 0 and 3 hours. I think those are the most unconscious of our work, because if you move into 3 to 5 and 5 to 10, that's probably planned after our work, which we don't want to touch that. But we do want to touch those unconscious after our works. So those are the the culture activities that we're looking for. Uninterrupted focus hours, meeting hours, we want to reduce those, and we want to reduce the after-hour collaboration hours. So this is great. You have this in Teams, and this requires the Viva Insights Advanced license to look at this on a organizational level. It works out of the box for you. So you can get started with this today and do it. So what we want to do then is look into this and how can we do more with it with Power BI, and that's, yeah, finally some Power BI. Let's look into that, Ville.
Finally, some Power BIing then. Let's see if I can just get the right screen up there. Except we have to start with this, like a warning finger here, created by Bing AI, of course. Before I even dive into all this massive data that you now have at hand on an organizational level, we have to just mention, you know, the whole with great power comes great responsibility. And yes, this is a wall of text, so let me zoom in a little bit and show you just these words. Sensitive data isn't meant for the general workforce. So what I'm about to show you, it might feel a bit scary. It might feel like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't have access to this kind of information. But remember that it's just a very few people who are supposed to be analyzing this information, and another few group of people that are supposed to make business decisions by interpreting this data. So with that said, let's have a look at the Viva Insight portal. You'll begin your journey at this stage where you are looking at, you know, the analysis, and on the left side you have a vast bunch of items, analysis, query, results, metric rules. You have a lot of things you can dive into. Let's just pause that for a moment and stay on the analysis tab, because out of the box you can get a lot of stuff working just by scrolling down. Here you have a bunch of Power BI templates, and they are ready for you. You can just click on them and get started just like that. But you do have to have the license that Ståle mentioned, but other than that, you are pretty well prepared to get started, even with very, very small, you know, preparations. And if this isn't enough for you, if you feel like templates, who works with that? I want to do my own stuff. I want to start from scratch. Not a problem. You just scroll even further and you have the custom queries. So you can begin with anything you want, and you can create this from scratch and do whatever kind of insight you want. But for the purpose of this presentation, let's keep to the Power BI templates for now. Ståle mentioned 3 metrics, right? We have after hours, collaboration hours, meeting hours, and uninterrupted focus hours. And I happen to know that all those 3 are found within the Wellbeing, Balance, and Flexibility report. So just a suggestion, start with that one. If you click on Start Analysis, you're going to end up on this page where you have to configure this query to kind of set it up the way you want it to be. And first of all, you have a name. It's going to be generated for you based on who you are and when you activated this. Maybe change that one out. And the only thing that I want you to focus on here is the time period, really. By default, it's 3 months, but maybe you want to go 6 months back, or maybe you want to specify a time period because this is before you did some kind of change management project, or during the change management project, or after the change management project. So you can kind of decide when you want to bring out the metrics for what kind of time period, and not just go with the 3 month. And then you have the predefined template metrics. And this is the reason why you want to go with templates and not start from scratch. This is a lot of metrics that this Power BI report is going to consist of. However, let me make this a bit easier for you. We do have 3 after hours, collaboration hours, meeting hours, and uninterrupted hours. So we know that the metrics that Ståle mentioned can be found within this template, alongside with very many other metrics as well. So this is a good template. This is what we want to start with. And I won't move forward without just addressing that these 2 have an exclamation mark on them, and they are yellow, so typically warnings, right? The reason why they have these warning signs on them is because urgent meetings and urgent emails within Viva Insight is not calculated just by you setting the meeting to urgent, you know, the priority to high, but rather it's measured based on keywords in the subject lines or in the meeting title. So depending on how you write, like urgent meeting, hurry for this meeting, or important stuff that you write into the meeting subject, that will actually flag this thing as an urgent email or an urgent meeting. And Viva Insight tracks the amount of time you spend on those things. But in our case, we have turned off this feature, so Viva Insight is not allowed to read any email subject lines or any meeting subject lines. So it can't determine what is urgent and not urgent. And that's why it's flagged like this. And also a good reminder that you do have some settings you can do if you feel like, yeah, we're not there yet, right? We want to have some more privacy in our data. Anyway, we're good with the predefined template metrics. Scrolling down, the only thing we can choose here is who do we want to include and what kind of attributes do we want to have available in Power BI. By default, this is what it looks like, and organization means departments, basically. So we can slice and dice this report based on the departments that the user is part of. And is active is typically a good thing. Is active means that this person is actually hired and actively using the services. But we could go in here and say that, yeah, this report is specifically for that region or this part of the company or this whatever, this country. That's up to you to decide. By default, it's just active. So moving on, we just have to go all the way up there and click run. That's it. Now the query is running in Viva Insight. This takes about 20 to 40 minutes, and then you'll have the query results. And on query results, you'll find these different blocks, or let's say call them groups, my results, all result favorites, and most importantly for this case, Power BI templates that only holds queries that runs against Power BI templates. And I'll just search for Wellbeing up in the upper right search bar. And in my case, I found two of them. So Wellbeing, Balance, and Flexibility. One is created by Ståle, one is created by me. Based in Viva Insight, you can always see the queries that any other analysts have also run. You can't be an analyst and like do your own secret queries that no one else can see. Anyone with the analyst role will see anything else that the analyst is doing as well. And what we want to focus on here is this, the data export part of this. And let me just add the names for the buttons. It's a bit more clear. CSV file is when you just download the CSV data. That's it. You just want to work with it in Excel, or you want to create your own Power BI template for, I don't know what reason you would want to do this, but if you want to have a CSV file with all the data, go ahead. Here it is. If you want to download the Power BI template, you click on the Power BI button. And if you want to have the information that you need to connect Power BI to this query, you click on the link button. And that's the part we want to do, because this query can actually run on a daily basis and generate new data on a daily basis. If we, for example, select running 3 months, as we do by default, that means that our Power BI report is automatically going to update. So we usually want to go with link here. Clicking on Power BI will download the Wellbeing Power BI template file, and clicking on link will open this window that has a partition identifier and a query identifier. And opening the Wellbeing Power BI file will open this window. Oh, that happens to correspond with the link window that we just opened. So partition identifier, query identifier, and finally you have to select the minimum group size. This begins on 10 and you can go upwards. And this means that within this Power BI report, we will never show you anything if the group that you are trying to filter based on is less than 10 people. Like if you have a country and you only have 9 people in that country, you will not see that country per se. It's still going to be part of the total, but you will never actually be able to determine smaller groups, so you can't find individuals in this data. That's an important thing to just mention. And you know what, that's it. Now we are into Power BI, and now we have all the tools available to customize this any way we want. Like you can do it big, you can do it small. In my case, I just added the CloudWay logo up there next to the Microsoft 365 logo. But apart from that, you could rebrand this completely. You can pick and choose what you want to have. You can remove pages, you can add pages. And when you're done, you just publish this to your Power BI service. But let's have a look at this starting page here, the summary page. And more specifically, let's have a look at these 6 metrics that we have right here. So we have handle urgency at 27%. So 27% of employees engage in urgent collaboration at least once during the past 4 weeks. It's interesting, but maybe we want to see this as on a department level. Like, yeah, this is for the whole company, but what about each individual group that we have? And actually, what about each individual group for any of these metrics? So what we did is created this list instead, where we take the same metrics, but we put them in a list view instead, and we put the organization as row levels, which means that productivity that has happened to have more than 10 people in them shows, and the other ones doesn't show any values because they don't have more than 10 people in them. But now you can squeeze this up a bit to look at just the handle urgency and see that we still see the 27%, just as we did before, except now we see that productivity is 33%, which doesn't add up, right? 33 plus 0 is not 27. And the reason for this is because productivity, within that group, you have 33% of employees handling urgency within 4 weeks, but on a total, compliance and enterprise mobility users are actually included, and their combined average is 27. So it matters that you know what you're looking at in this case, that you have some kind of training on the data, and that you realize that there's differences in looking at slices of this data as well as the whole of this data. Now, to be fair, you could have seen this if you just went in, the standard report as well. You just have to go to settings, which will take you to a report settings page like this. And on the left side here, you just have to select the department that you want to look at one at a time. And then you have to go down and click back, and you'll be transferred back to the first page. And now you have all the information on that department. And now you just have to redo this over and over and over again until you have covered all of the departments in your company. Super simple, right? We didn't think so, me and Ståle. So that's why we created the list instead, and the CloudWay customized overview, if you will. So sometimes you do know that, this is the department we want to pinpoint. This is the department we want to look further into. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to see what is the organization all about? Like, which departments do we have, and how can we find those outliers? Like Ståle mentioned, the one with 0 to 3 hours of uninterrupted focus time, for example. So with this list, it's much easier to sort the departments and kind of find those outliers that you may not have realized were there in the first place if you didn't have this opportunity or this list available to you. But we have 3 important metrics, and I haven't shown you them by now. So after hours, collaboration hours, meeting hours, and uninterrupted focus hours were 3 things that Ståle mentioned, and one of them, uninterrupted focus hours, is found under Protect, Focus, and Impact, which is one of the pages within this Power BI report. The other ones can also be found, but I don't have time to show all of them. So let's focus on just one of them. Now you might notice that 3.8 hours is not the same as 6.6 hours, and that's because of 2 reasons. One of them being that Ståle and me took these print screens at 2 different times. I would say that's the main reason. The other reason is that Ståle is looking at information based on who he is a manager of, and I am looking at the number of the entire organization. So as an analyst, you can see everything. Makes sense, right? So I'm looking at this number, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a good number. This is a good KPI, 3.8 hours. But is it the whole story, though? This is just the average on a weekly basis on a total scale. So maybe in this case, I don't want to have the departments as a graph. Maybe I want to change that and instead have a weekly graph to show me how has this changed over time. Because this, in all fairness, tells a bit of a different story than the other one. Like, we have some weeks where we have many hours of uninterrupted work, but we have some weeks where we have none. So maybe on an average, on a total scale, we feel like, we're going to do this and that to fix this problem, or we're going to help you with notifications, whatever it might be. But looking at it from this perspective, we might also be able to proactively work with this data and see that this time frame comes back over and over. Like, these weeks, every year, it's the same thing. We have no uninterrupted hours where we can just focus. So what is happening during those weeks? Is that something we can anticipate? Can we rearrange the work within the departments so that we actually balance this out a bit more? So I'd say that this graph tells a much broader and more interesting story than just the one number of 3.8 hours. And this is why we want to customize our Power BI reporting for Viva Insight and not just go with the default ones. If I was to run Power BI in Teams right now, you could have clicked these links, but I'll make sure I'll send them in the chat window instead. So you'll have these useful links to click around and learn more on this subject. Now we do have, I think, like 9 minutes left in Ståle. How do we get started today? Or do you want to take over?
Yep, absolutely. So I can then share my
just a
screen.
Warning to you. We do have 9 minutes, and we do want to have some questions at the end. So spend the minutes wisely.
So yeah, I can then scroll through your stuff here and then give you how you can get started today, which is look at quiet time. Like, this is how you can get started. And think about what Ville said as well in terms of looking at this from a larger perspective. Like, okay, when am I so busy that I don't have any quiet time? How can I plan for that? So do that and start looking into your organization and see, okay, how could we benefit from looking at this from a broader perspective? And think about what Ville said in terms of getting the overall, not just for the organization, but they're drilling down into the departments. And that is what we wanted to share today. And we do have some time for questions. If you have any questions or comments, I do want to say this though, that with the Power BI reports, you are actually able to easily import them and use them as basis for OKRs and Viva goals. And what I'm saying here is that you can actually set up, hey, we want to decrease the number of meeting hours. I think that's the easiest one, especially if you're looking at the Copilot return of investment, where one of the effects we want to see of using Copilot is to reduce the number of meeting hours. We want to run more effective meetings. And then you can actually tie that to a key result in Viva Goals and then go into the Power BI report. And it's actually very simple to go in, find where the number is that you're looking for, and use that as automatically updating that key result. So when you are reaching that goal or reducing number of hours and so on and so forth, you get that as part of your Viva goals and OKRs and achieving those goals. So think about that. That's why you want to make these reports and look at this from an organizational perspective and how you can actually find a good return of investment for Copilots. So
I'm hijacking the screen because even though you said it and it's super simple, I'm just going to show you really quick. When you have created something in Viva Goals, you have a metric like this, a new key result. Instead of updating manually, from Power BI. So you just click on Power BI, you select one of the reports that you want to fetch this information from, and you will literally get the Power BI report in this screen. So you can click on the number that you want to connect this to. So it's beyond simple. If I go to Wellbeing, for example, now I'm gonna go with my own next step and just click next. I can actually see this report as it looks in this window, and I can highlight this number and say that 114, that's the number I want to connect to this goal, and then just click connect. That's how easy it is. And now just remember, we created a query in Viva Insight that automatically updates every day, that feeds the Power BI report every day, that then feeds into Viva Goals every day. So we get this information where we want to have it every day, automatically updated.
and it's beautiful.
Small sidestep.
That's beautiful. That's a fantastic ending to our session. So thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions, we are in the chat. And make sure you rate our session as well. If you liked it, that's fantastic. And if you don't, that's great too, because then it wasn't for you. Reach out on LinkedIn as well if you have any further questions other than that.